Hi, my name is Teresa Kenny, and I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. I've been in practice for 20 years, and I want to talk to you today about why I'm so passionate about what I do in women's health. I got into women's health because I really cared about women my whole life. And originally, it started because I was in the pro-life movement as a young girl. I would go to the abortion clinics with my mom. And I would watch the women go into the abortion clinic, and my heart would break for them. And as I got older, I really wanted to make a difference in the pro-life movement. I got into women's health as a nurse practitioner with that in my heart. And what I've realized over the last 20 years is that linchpin of the movement, of the pro-life movement, is in women's health. I know it seems crazy, but I'm going to tell you why. I have a story for you. So recently, I did a podcast interview. It was with 4 beautiful women, young women in high school that live in Mexico. They asked me to be on their podcast, and they wanted to learn things about birth control, how it affected women's health, how it affected actually the pro-life movement. And so I spoke with them for an hour and a half. They asked me all sorts of questions. And I tell you, I'll never forget this one girl at the end, this beautiful woman from Mexico. She said to me, she's like, "You really changed my mind about what I think about women's health and the birth control pill." And the reason why I changed her mind is not because I convinced her anything about abortion. It's because I convinced her that I cared about women, and I cared about women being empowered to know their bodies. You see, young women are never told about the beauty of the feminine design and about the beauty of the fertility cycle. And I'm telling you, it is the most important thing that we can do for young women. And eventually, it would be the most powerful changing tool we have to help women be connected to their bodies, their procreative power. I'm going to tell you another story. So I see lots of women as patients. But recently, I had one patient that came and saw me, and she was frustrated. She moved to Nebraska just recently, and she was living a lifestyle, frankly, that was not healthy. She was involved in multiple relationships, sexual promiscuity. She was at risk for sexually transmitted diseases. And I just talked to her, told her about what I thought about maybe the health choices that she was making. And frankly, she wasn't really happy with me. In fact, she told me, "I really like sex and I'm going to keep doing it, so don't try to change my mind." And so I left her that day, hoping that maybe I'd planted some seed. Well, I guess I did, because she came back and saw me about a month and a half to 2 months later, and she was different. And I remember that day, we did some testing, and I had to tell her that actually she had contracted a sexually transmitted disease, and it broke her world. But what she knew is I really cared about her. And it was at that point that she really wanted to know really what was going on in her body. So she wanted to understand, why am I having such bad menstrual cycles? Why don't I get my period every month? So we started to solve those underlying things that she really cared about in terms of her health. And this is what changed her heart. Because as she started to learn more about her body, she started to realize the worth of her body and the dignity that she had. And also, she realized the value of her fertility. So fast forward another 6 to 9 months, and now I've treated this patient. She ended up being treated for polycystic ovarian syndrome. She's in a new relationship. She stopped living a life of sexual promiscuity. Her physical appearance actually changed before my eyes. And she started talking about the importance of maybe someday wanting to have a baby. And so we took a girl that was very broken, in broken relationships, and we restored her. She's not perfect and not making every perfect decision, but it was integrating her into herself and having her understand the value of her menstrual cycle as a vital sign of her health that actually helped her to make the choice to live a life that respected her. Now, what I want to tell you is another story, because again, this is the most important thing that we can give access to our young women. Recently, I went to a conference, and it was a Focus Missionary Conference. It was 8,000 young, beautiful men and women coming as missionary disciples to learn how to be leaders. And I was at that conference, and I was speaking on holistic women's health, And I was also representing a booth that was the Guiding Star Project, and they are involved in holistic women's health. I spoke to hundreds of women during this conference, and it just made my heart realize more now than ever that this, again, is the most important thing that we can do to help our young and men and women understand the dignity of their fertility. So many young women came up to me, told me stories about how their doctors put them on the pill for all sorts of medical reasons, how they really didn't understand how their cycle worked. And I put on many little conferences educating them about their cycle and their body. And these young women were fascinated by it. And the women that I spoke to over and over again just told me stories of, I wish that I knew more when I was younger. I wish I had access to this type of healthcare that you're offering and this education that you're offering to me. And of course, there's only a few of us out there. There's not hundreds of doctors that understand how to treat medical conditions without the birth control pill. So I understand that their frustration is real because we want women to have access to this type of care. Well, let me tell you something amazing that happened during that conference. I happen to know a clinic that was very close to the conference, and we have some very good partners and friends at this clinic. It was an OBGYN clinic. That weekend of the conference, they got over 12 calls from young women who had been at the conference and had spoken to people at the booth that I was standing at. 7 of those young women wanted their intrauterine devices, or IUDs, removed. Several of them just wanted to learn how to chart their fertility cycle, and one of them even wanted help for infertility. I'm telling you that this is a real thing. These were young Catholic-focused missionaries, probably not using IUDs for birth control. Most of them probably had them in for medical reasons. Women deserve access to restorative women's health care. And that's what we can offer them. And they are drawn to it. These women want this more than anything. And we owe it to them to give healthcare that every woman deserves. Women deserve to know about their bodies. Women deserve to know about their fertility. They need to be aware of it because, again, it integrates them into themselves and it allows them to see a dignity and a value in their procreative power. And this is the key in the pro-life movement. The pro-life movement can change because if women understand the value of their body and their procreative worth, they will choose life. So what I'm asking is that we help to continue to provide access to education, knowledge, and empowerment for these young women, high school, college age, and beyond, of the appreciation of their fertility, knowing their bodies, and in helping them to know that there is an alternative out there in women's health that exists that doesn't just prescribe birth control for every medical problem that you can walk into in an OBGYN's office. I provide this care and I've done it for 20 years and I know the value of it and how it really, really works and it restores women. So please join me in helping young women get access to this type of information, education, empowerment, and care. God bless you.